Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. It is a windy, blustery day outside today, but it's warm. It's a high of 12 degrees Celsius or 55 degrees Fahrenheit. I was given this Whipcord Cedar by Connor about a year and a half ago. I've given it a first pruning and styling where I reduced a lot. It was a big mass of almost like a clump style, and I reduced the branch structure down to, I guess there's 4 main branches coming off the trunk now. So I think it's time to style this tree further. The first pruning, I just wanted to see how the tree reacted to pruning, and it seemed to have done quite well. It seems to behave very similar to any other Thuja. So I'm confident I'm going to give it another styling today and then let it grow over the summer once again. The last time I pruned this tree, I wouldn't really call it a styling or, determining a style. It was more a reduction process, taking all those multiple upright branches off and kind of reducing it down. Today, I think I'm going to reduce it further, maybe even down to a single trunk line. It's hard to imagine a style for this tree because the foliage is quite different. It's kind of drooping, cascading, but very thin. It's not like leaves or anything like that. A tree that's kind of close to this foliage is the giant sequoia. Here's a look at my giant sequoias. So they kind of grow like that, sort of like, not quite the same, it's looser, more like a juniper, I guess. I think when I'm styling this tree, I want to keep the characteristics of the foliage in mind, this weeping characteristic. So maybe a weeping style tree would be the best. So having go upright and then weeping branches. I think that would look best for this tree. I think it's a good style. Now, the hard part is imagining it in the future. What do I want on this tree? To make a successful looking weeping tree, you need to have the branches going upright, curving around, and then weeping. You can't just have the branches come off the trunk and hang down. That's a different style. It's not arching your weeping branches. It's just directing your branches to kind of cascade. So I think for a successful weeping tree, you need the upright structure, and then the branches curve, and then the tree begins to weep at all the tips. Sort of like a weeping mulberry, if you've ever seen the structure of that, the curved kind of branches that grow upright and then cascade down. To me, that's like a true weeping tree. At the moment, I have one trunk coming up, and then it divides from 1 into 1, 2, 3, 4 major branches. So at the moment, it's kind of like a clump style at the base of this tree. The big question is, do I want to grow it as more of an upright tree? Do I want to keep it as a clump style? And these are questions I am asking myself because I don't know. You can see the trunk in this view is very skinny in this view. And then if I go to the front here, because of the root spread, it kind of looks thicker. And it's definitely thicker up top here where all these branches come out than it is down here. So if I continue to grow it as a clump style, I'm definitely going to encourage this inverse taper on the tree. So today I was thinking of reducing it back to a single trunk line. If I reduce it to this one, I'm going to have a very vertical tree. If I reduce it to this one, I'll have movement that comes off to the side. And I don't have to reduce it to one trunk in this pruning session, because if you imagine if I were to cut this branch off, the trunk is going to die back right down into the soil, because you can almost see on this trunk the swelling on the trunk that feeds each upright branch on it. It's got ridges. So you can see this root here feeds this branch above. So if you kill off this branch, you're going to kill off a strip of the trunk and that root that feeds it. So I have to be kind of cautious, maybe do this operation slowly so I keep my trunk alive and reduce the top branch structure. So I think that's the goal today, is to do some reduction and maybe not all in one session. This branch here flows really nicely from the trunk line up. This front branch flows nicely. I guess they all flow quite nicely. Maybe not this back one. It's kind of cut off and then goes vertical again. I could definitely remove that back one. It's not the nicest branch on this tree. So I think that's where I'll start. That'll leave me going from one trunk down to 3 kind of branches. And then I've got this one off to this side is quite weak. I could probably prune that one off too, so I'm going from one trunk to two major branches or upright trunks with this pruning session. And I think that's the approach I should take. Now, if I do remove those 2 trunks, they're beside each other, I think the chances are I will kill off a section of that trunk. It'll die back. But they're both kind of together at the back of the tree. And if that dies off, eventually the tree will grow back around that dead section and heal itself as it develops into a larger tree. So I think that's a good step. I think I'm going to remove these 2 back branches today, see how the tree looks, and then I may do some further branch selection on what's left. I'm going to have a look at it, kind of evaluate it, and see if I can do further pruning without weakening the tree too much. All right, I'm going to begin the work. So I'm going to start, I'm just going to cut these 2 branches off roughly. So here goes my first big cut. Done. Second one. Done. So that takes off that side of the tree. Now I will take off the back branch. I do have a back bud right here, which is good. It shows the trees do back bud on older wood, which is nice, but I'm not going to keep that. I'm going to take it right back to here, cutting that off also. So there I go. I've killed off those 2 back branches, and I think it looks pretty good. I think I will keep these stubs. I think they would make some good, interesting deadwood in the future. So now I've got to look at what I've got left. So I've got the strong branch off here, which divides into 2. One is thicker and one is thinner. So if I want to go for taper, I would cut off the thicker one and develop the thinner one as my branch. Do I want to go for taper? Always in a bonsai, always go for taper and movement. So by pruning this off, I've got taper and a slight change of direction. So off this comes. It's a big cut. Here I go, leaving a stub. So that branch is gone also. So now that branch is really reduced, and I'm not going to prune this branch. I'm going to let it thicken up, and I may get some back budding along here because it's exposed to sunlight now. Now on my main trunk here, it comes up and divides into 2 here. It's very straight in this section with no taper, no movement. It's kind of not so good. I don't want to prune this off, otherwise I'd have like a tree that's just, it doesn't look very balanced. So I'm definitely keeping my upright part here, hoping maybe I'll get some back budding in this area. Do I want this branch here? That's the next question. And that is a good question. Let me think. Let's try pruning it for now. So I'll get my scissors. I'll keep the branch that comes forward. This one's kind of getting close to this back branch, so I'll prune it off here. Again, leaving a stub for dieback, like that. And then, that's what I've got. I've got this branch coming forward. I've got my apex here. So now I want to look at this section of the tree. You can see I'm starting to get some thickening here where all these branches come out from one spot. I think I need to sort this structure out. So let's zoom in for a close-up in this section. All right, so let's see what's going on. I have this branch coming over here. It's kind of going in between these 2 lower branches. I don't think I want anything coming over this direction, so I'm going to take that off. There's one growing vertical here. I'll take that off. This one is kind of growing right over top of this branch, so I could keep either. This one, if I got rid of this lower one, this one's a nice branch. If If I keep this lower one, this one's not so good. I think I'll keep both for now. So right here on this lower part, I've got one branch above the other. I've got to determine which one I want to keep. The lower one has some branching. The upper one is definitely a stronger branch, more developed. If I keep the lower one, I have less of a straight section here with no branches, that's for sure. So I think because of that, I will take off the upper one and keep my lower branch here. So I'm going to come in and remove that branch. And again, I'm going to leave a stub. So here I go, removing that upper branch, just like that. I think I left part of it on at the back here. Did I? Maybe that's a separate branch. This part I left on. Get rid of that. So that's removed. I've got an apex that comes up here. I could shorten it. I could definitely take off this leader and shorten it back, so I will. I'll take it off to right. I think that's too high, so I think I've got to take it back further. Maybe to here, like that. This branch that comes forward here, let's look at that next. This one, I think it's getting a little dense. I think I'm going to prune the leader off on it right here, like that, kind of getting it, subdividing a bit shorter down, and maybe I'll get some back budding on the tree. I've got a few vertical ones here. I don't want those, or do I? I guess I do. I do want it arching up, so maybe I want to keep my more vertical ones and get rid of the horizontal ones, because I want that arch, that sweeping arch, so I'll get rid of these lower ones. And that'll help create that cascade branch structure. Okay. Now this back branch, I said I wasn't going to touch it, but maybe I'm going to take the tip off just so it doesn't grow so long. I think I should. I'm going to remove, let me see what I'm going to remove. Yeah, I'm going to remove this part here. Right to here. Off it goes, like that. I think I better leave it at this. I think I've lightened the tree up. I've taken off two of those major branches coming off the trunk. Maybe I'll get some back budding and I can kind of make the tree a little more compact, or maybe I'll have to grow it taller and let this thicken up and blend in more. Yeah, we'll see. I think that's about as much work as I want to do on the tree for today. Here is what I took off the tree today. Some fairly good sized branches, that's for sure. I will be repotting the tree this spring. I haven't ever looked at the roots, so I'm going to have a look at the root system and determine what's going on there and maybe do a little bit of root pruning. So let's have a look at the tree now, see what it's looking like for this spring. Here is a look at the tree. The front could change, but there it is. I think, removing these two back major branches is definitely going to help with the reverse taper. I think that will improve in the future. Also, working on the root system will help with that. Getting a nice trunk flare down here with the radial roots will help thicken up the base of the tree so the reverse taper doesn't look so obvious. And it's very slight too, so I think, as this tree grows, that reverse taper should disappear. So that's the tree. Once a spring comes, I may do a little pinching of the foliage, kind of making it more compact. It all depends on how much vigor it has in spring. If it shoots out everywhere, that's good. I can do some pinching, bring it more compact, but that will be a video for the future. The Whipcord Cedar is all pruned up for 2023. We'll see how it grows this summer. It'll be very interesting. I have seen some larger versions of these trees in the nursery. They look very good. They're quite spectacular, actually. So I'm looking forward to developing this into the future. I think it'll be a really, maybe unique bonsai. It is very warm and sunny now today, but there is colder weather coming. Winter will be returning. I am very tempted to start my repotting of all the trees in the greenhouse here, but I think it's too early. I'm going to wait. We may get a very cold March, you never know. So I don't want to be repotting them and then having them to go all through the month of March, kind of babying them, keeping the greenhouse warm until they start growing in spring. So I think it's better to start root pruning closer to spring when they start growing, rather than letting them sit in the pots after root pruning and waiting for spring. The trees in here definitely think it's spring. You can see the forsythia here that Eric and Emma gave me, these little cuttings. You can see the flower buds, the yellow flower buds developing here, which is really, really cool. These are going to be really interesting bonsai for the future. So they will get repotted in spring also after the flowering. I'm outside here in the middle of February in a t-shirt, and it doesn't feel cold at all. It's been a very strange and warm winter. I am almost finished pruning up all my hardy trees for this winter. I only have a couple of trees to go. I'll show you those. I have my spruce here. There's 2 spruce. One is looking really good. That could use a light pruning. I won't prune it very much. The important thing with these spruce is to get them in bonsai soil and in a pot and weed them. They're very weedy. This spruce here, it looks like it's dead. All the needles are falling off. They're all turned brown. But if you look closely, there is some green needles on the tree here that I believe it's still alive. It's still flexible. I've seen this in the front garden. Spruce look totally dead. See, these needles are still flexible and hanging on. I've seen spruce that look totally dead like this. They're brown. And then in spring, a new set of buds comes out and the tree lives. So I'm hoping that's what happens with this one, that it barely survives, makes it, and then hopefully the vigor will increase. I have my native white pine here. I don't know how much pruning work there will be on this tree, but I can do some for sure. Maybe, yeah, managing these tips. You can see how many shoots I have. They're getting a little dense at the tips here. Kind of bringing them back, making the tree more compact. So that can be worked on. I also have a pot full of poplar trees here. I've got 2 poplars. Maybe 3 if this is a separate tree, or it could be a branch off the bigger one. But yeah, these are poplar trees. I have a birch back here, and I've got a bunch of red maples seedlings that all these trees just grew by themselves in this pot. I didn't plant any of them. They're just volunteer seedlings. And I think that's about it. I have my big European buckthorn here. It's got buds all over it. I can't tell you what branches are alive and what's dead on the tree. I have to wait till later in spring, see what's alive and what's dead on this tree. So I won't be pruning it up until the buds turn green and I know what's going on with the tree. I'm hoping it has good vigor because it's a really, really cool tree. So that is it for all my hardy trees. They will be all pruned up once I finish these other ones. So there might be a couple more videos about hardy trees, and then I'll be switching gears to tropicals. My goal in bonsai now is not to get any more trees. I have lots of trees. I have enough trees to last me the rest of my life. The only way I would get more trees is if one was to die, like a species I really like. If it was to die off, then I would replace it maybe. I have enough trees to keep me very, very busy. And there comes a point in life where you just have to be satisfied with what you have in life and just develop it from then on. I don't want to be one of these people that's always looking for a better and a better tree. Otherwise, you'll never be happy. And that's with life too. You've got to be satisfied sometimes with what you have in life and not always be looking for upgrades or a better house, a better car. You've got to be happy with what you have and just enjoy life and enjoy what you have. And so that's what I'm going to try and do with my bonsai, is just to enjoy the trees I have, develop them as far as I can in my lifetime, with the goal to develop them into beautiful show trees. So I'll be matching, the trees with the pots. I'll be developing landscapes, creating forests. It's going to be really fun. I have lots of raw material here to work with now. So I'm going to just keep developing all the trees on the channel into the future. And if a major tree dies or something, well, maybe then I can replace it with the same species or another species and develop that. But generally, I'm going to try and keep the trees I have, and if some die off, well, if my numbers reduce a bit, maybe that's a good thing. So that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.